atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I say it. I say it's ignorance, and I just call it faith, and unsubstantiated claims.
I love you. All right. Coming at you from sunny BC in Alligator, Florida, this is Left of the Valley 2.0. My name is Kevin, and I helped my neighbor out this morning. She said to me, I could marry you. I said, wow, I couldn't believe it. You do something nice for someone, and they threaten to ruin your life in return. Joining me as usual is the team who managed to successfully weigh a rainbow. Turns out it was pretty light. Guys, welcome back.
Oh, yeah, that joke's funny on a spectrum.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice. Happy Father's Day, everyone.
Yes.
Happy Father's Day, everybody.
And these
for those of us on in the West, I don't know what y'all are doing across the other places, but it's Father's Day here in the States. And
hey, it's probably on Jupiter as well, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
And this show is brought to you by our new patron, Mike Wiseman of The Bible Says What? You too can be as bright as Mike. He's so bright indeed that the sun needs shades to look at you. So go to patreon.com/LETV and become a patron. And today we'll be talking to Armin Navabi in the second half of the show. But first, let's do our usual chit-chat. Okay. All right, this is black and white news, really. If I say Orcanus Orca, aka the killer whale, or aka Free Willy, they're making news lately. Although they're not actually they're actually the largest member of the dolphin family, not whale in the conventional sense of the word. They're also probably the apex marine predator. So move over, Jaws. Willie's here. Recently, they've been smashing into sailboats. Once thought to be a seemingly rare event, these attacks are now occurring almost daily off the coast of Portugal near the Strait of Gibraltar. They're organizing. But why?
We've been killing them and polluting their home for years. We kind of got it coming.
Yeah. This is for Shamu.
Yeah. Hey, whales are smart. Like they figured out that they actually have a language with like a few words in them.
I said, these are actually dolphins. The killer whales are actually dolphins. They're the largest dolphin. They're part of the dolphin family. Which, there's still cetaceans, there's still quote unquote whales, but you're not like anyway. So I
learned something new.
You did. So there are actually two hypotheses on why these orcas are striking these vessels. Dr. Alfredo Lopez Fernandez of the Grupo Trabajo Orca Atlética, I think I got this right, told The Guardian. At first, the first one is that it's a response to a bad situation in which one or several orcas are now trying to stop the boats so it doesn't happen again. This behavior has been seen in adults, and the other theory is that the orcas are playing. They might have invented some kind of new game, and they're having a whale of a time repeating it. Now, for the game theory, that's the latter theory I was just talking about, this is not the first time that this has been seen. Back in 1987, there was one group of orcas that introduced a fashion trend among the youngest of plopping a dead salmon on their head. And they would just parade around with a dead salmon on their head. Then, as soon as it started, it stopped. So, kind of like similar to human fashion trends, right?
If you want to be a whale, you must chop this ocean down with a salmon. It's like a Monty Python whale.
I know.
It's an initiation, like you see in groups. Like, hey, Bill, you put that salmon on your head yet? No, you're not part of the group. So,
I don't know what my cat's doing right now.
He's got a pussy in his face.
Ding, ding.
So
he must be part of the show.
This little girl we rescued a few months ago. She's still suffering from cat trauma, so don't be surprised if she just starts biting me at random.
Oh, baby. Like that.
Like that.
Yeah.
So the boat smashing orcas have been nicknamed Gladys after the original scientific name, which was Orca gladiator. So there's at least 15 individuals involved, and it's suspected that one individual, Gladys Blanca, or White Gladys, and see, it's always a white person, may have had a bad collision with a vessel, along with other Gladys whales, also having traumatic experiences with boats. So the pack may be trying to minimize the trauma. So currently, the advice is that if you're sailing across there and you're in the presence of orcas, people in boats should just slow down, stop the engine, contact the area officer, take their hands off the wheel, and record the interaction off the phone, and maybe pray to the orca god that they won't smash your dinghy.
Right?
So that's
fascinating.
I'm pretty sure, like up here in BC, there's actually laws where it's like if you get caught going too fast in orca waters or where orcas are present, you will get fined and you will get in trouble. It's some
of the differences between our respective countries. In the U.S., for example, they have a lot of tours where you can actually go with boats and go see the whales. It's very up close. Here in Canada, there's an actual law that says you can't approach a whale for, I think it's like at least 100 meters at the very least. They have to be like far away. They
Far
can't approach.
away, yeah.
100 meters would be like 300 yards. So they can't approach the whale too close.
But they do the whale watching tours and stuff.
Yeah, they do. They stand kind of far away. You can see them come out of the water, but you can't like in the States. You can see people will actually.
Yeah, they will get right up on the mobile bus here. Yeah, but like. I mean, we have like certain, like here in Florida, we have a bunch of boating laws for manatees. Yeah, because they're very slow and they're endangered, and so it just depends. We're just selective about how we care for our marine life. Okay,
I'm just thinking I got a solution. Backpackers solve their problems by putting Canadian flags on their backpacks when they were touring Europe. American boaters just need to put Canadian flags on the back of their boats, and the whales are like, "Oh, okay, they're cool.
They're cool.
Don't attack them.
Don't attack them."
Yeah.
It is really interesting because, like, I love learning because whales, dolphins, whatever, are so intelligent. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like the theory that they're playing. Like, that's the theory I like the most. Like, they're just like, this is fun. Like, social bonding.
Damaging their boat, but this is fun. We're just going to toss them around.
What you don't know, there's another orca. There's another orca in the main ground that's just sticking above water with a phone, recording this for TikTok. Look at him go! Look at him go!
Little do we know they're upgrading from salmon, and like a couple months from now, they're just going to be swimming around with dead humans on their heads. It's
have you seen what they've done to penguins? Like, they're assholes. And they like play with their food while the animal's still alive, and they're tossing it back and forth with each other, and I'm like, oh my.
Yeah, but penguins are always walking around so snooty with their nose up in the air. They're just bringing them down a few notches.
Orcas are not to be smashed. There's also a lot of orcas right now that are attacking sharks, and they actually know that sharks can't really breathe when they're turned upside down, so they go into a catatonic state. Right, and scientists know that because when we capture a shark, they flip him upside down. The shark kind of goes paralyzed, kind of goes limp, and the orcas know that, so they flip him upside down, and then they eat the liver, just the liver. They leave the rest of the carcass there. They just go for the liver. They are brilliant. They are actually very, very smart.
Wow!
They've got tactics. I've seen orcas actually use tactics of creating a wave. So when you're on the ice floe, the ice floe has to, go up and down, and then on the other side, they're just waiting for you. They got a pack on the other side waiting for you while they're creating.
That is awesome.
It's absolutely brilliant. It's like, holy shit, man! These are like.
This is why I stay on land, because that's your place.
Well,
that's your place. I'm going to stay here.
You're not on the menu, despite a movie that made. Really bad movie they made, I think, in the 70s called Orca after the success of Jaws. They did a horror movie of that kind. We are not at all on the food menu for them.
Yeah, I know we aren't, but I just think safety first. I don't need to go where you live. It's fine.
Speaking of black and white news, this Monday will be Juneteenth, which is an annual holiday celebrating the end of slavery that the U.S. will commemorate. It marks the moment of June of 1865 when the Union troops arrived in Texas to inform enslaved African Americans that they were free by executive decree. So at the time, many slaves owners in more remote areas chose to not reveal to their slaves that they had been freed so they can still harvest an extra crop or two. Juneteenth has since become known as America's second Independence Day. It's now a federal holiday. It will be celebrated by parades, proclamation, and ceremonies throughout the U.S., though it commemorates a moment when enslaved African Americans were freed. The enslavement of an estimated 10 million Africans over a period of almost 4 centuries in the Atlantic slave trade was a tragedy of such scope that it's difficult to imagine, much less comprehend. This was said by Albert J. Rabideau, who wrote in Slave Religion, an Invisible Institution in the antebellum South. Former Confederate soldiers still tried to round up black runaways to return them to their owners after the decree, though the term no longer had any legal merit, and white vigilantes tracked down and to punish former enslaved people. Then there were the practice of taking away black freedom through other means like convict leasing programs and corrupt justice system throughout the South that the historian Douglas A. Blackmon documented in his Pulitzer Prize-winning book, Slavery by Another Name. So the lesson from history, slavery didn't end with the Emancipation Proclamation. Black people still had to literally fight for their freedom long afterwards. This is a quote from the historian W. Caleb McDaniel, who wrote, "Slavery did not end cleanly or on a single day. It ended through a violent, uneven process." So happy Juneteenth Day to all down there in the United States. I hope you guys celebrate this and take a good moment to reflect how far we've come in relations between African Americans and Caucasian Americans, and still how far we still have to go.
For sure.
Nothing to add.
No, I like it because I agree. So
I like to throw in a joke, but I don't want to joke about that because it's like it seems to still be a big. Well, it still seems to be a big issue.
It is,
even up here in Canada. There's like stigmas that are still that people still use and stereotypes that people still apply, and it's. And, you know, if in my mind, Juneteenth should be kind of a time of where it's like, this is what we did and this is what we still need to do better. But it's, but.
Depends where you are. I live in a state where we're pretending that none of the terrible things that white people did happened. Yeah. So we're trying to pretend like, you know, we're just going to whitewash that literally. We're just going to be like, we didn't do shit because we don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, unless they're not white. No,
if you're a person of color, like DeSantis just signed a bill to defund there was supposed to be for Juneteenth. There was supposed to be a K run in Orlando that was going to raise money to help the African American community in Orange County. He was like, no, we're not going to sponsor it. Took the money out, canceled it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
He's been doing a lot of. That's just one of the many shitty things he did with the recent budget bill that he vetoed.
Yeah. Well, so remember,
that was one I read this morning, and I was like, I'm like, oh boy, he's on brand.
Florida is where woke goes to die, and their economy because everybody's leaving or not coming to work because everything's so woke.
Don't come to Florida.
Yeah,
don't come.
Oh, goodness. All right, perfect. Moving on. Who wants to go first? Helen, or do we want to put Dawn first?
Go ahead, Helen.
All right, Helen, you got a top 10 moment for us by any chance?
I do. Okay, so
you better have a top 10 because otherwise, why am I putting up music? It just still hasn't started.
Top 10.
I every week, and it happens. Since it's Father's Day, and I want people to feel very good about themselves. So to make you feel very good about being a good dad, or don't feel that bad about the dad you currently have, we're doing the top worst dads in history.
Oh.
Happy Father's Day. Okay, number 1, we got King David.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sure. He is everyone's favorite Bible character besides Jesus. But King David really sucked. He did nothing after his son raped his daughter. His son Absalom was so angry at him that he started an uprising. He probably would have been successful, except this guy, he got stuck in a tree by his hair, and King David's advisor killed him.
How do you get stuck in a tree by your hair?
I don't know.
Did he have like a Don King hairdo and somehow rode under like a really low branch and somehow got tangled? How does that happen?
I don't know. I'm sure, like, you try to visualize it, you're like,
But even
Like,
if you didn't have the perfect hair and you're riding under a tree and your hair is formed backwards somehow, I don't know.
The smaller twigs, the short ones. Like
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. It's like you see your son tie his hair to a tree, and you're like, you know what? Screw nepotism. Let nature take him.
So also he killed a man to steal man's wife and baby.
Oh yeah, like you do, right? I mean,
Piano guy. Yay. Good for King. Yay. So yeah. But he's like super sorry, you guys. He's so sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Even when I was Christian or whatever, it's like King David was always referred to as like, no matter how bad you are, God will still love you and will forgive you. And it's like,
apparently, yeah. Ugh, okay.
This way
Anyway.
was liking Donald Trump to King David as well.
Moving on to Peter the Great. The Great part of the Peter the Great's name does not refer to his fatherhood. Sure, he was known as the father of modern Russia, and he led to a cultural revolution, including scientific and education reforms. Blah blah blah. But he also had his own son, Alexei, tortured to death. Alexei was no fan of his father. He tried to overthrow the emperor. Years of living under his father's rule had given Alexei a drinking problem. Shocking. Yeah. Peter the Great.
I'm just thinking that's why you never tell your dad is that as hard as you can hit when you're being spanked.
Oh, yeah.
You're off to the torture chamber.
Peter the Great also had Alexei's mother tried on false charges of adultery. He seems like stand-up guy. Yeah, great.
Alexei, while you're under my empire, you will follow my rules.
Okay. Moving on to John Adams for number 3. The founding father was not a great father himself. He wrote very critical letters to his sons. 2 of them were alcoholics, and one died of it. His third son, John Quincy Adams, became president, but bore a huge chip on his shoulder placed there by his father. While it's popular to laud Adams as a hero, and indeed he was a formidable force in shaping the nation, it's also important to realize the good revolutionaries are often bad fathers. People like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison all thought John Adams was a little bit crazy. Just a bit.
Ben Franklin.
Contemporaries were like, yeah, this guy's kind of intense. Moving on to Marvin Gaye Sr., the father of the celebrated singer Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye Sr. was a difficult man. He was a Pentecostal minister who saw his own father beat his mother. As a result, Gaye Sr. was a tough man. His son wrote, living with father was like living with a king, an all-cruel, changeable, cruel, and all-powerful king. Like his father before him, he was abusive and an alcoholic. He rebuffed his son's success, knowing that he had sold his soul to the devil to make pop music. Eventually murdered his son during an argument.
Always have to have the last word.
I didn't know that's how Marvin Gaye died. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I did not know that. I read it early today. I was like, oh, that's terrible.
And it's such a shame because the man, Marvin Gaye had incredible talent. And he kind of just started out, and God knows where he had gone if it, kept going. But he kind of became a legend. But gone way too far.
It's just tragic and sad. Bruce McMahon is a hedge fund millionaire, seduced and married his daughter Linda in a secret ceremony with Mr. Abbey.
Stepdaughter or daughter?
Daughter.
Whoa.
McCann denies ever having sex with Linda and questions whether she was really his daughter, which flies in the face of DNA evidence.
Oh, Jesus.
I need a shower.
Just believe what you want to believe. It's the
mental gymnastics are nuts. Because even like it was his stepdaughter, still creepy and gross.
Well, stepdaughter is definitely Jerry Springer worthy, and it's like taboo. But when it's your own
daughter, porn there is out there.
Yeah, when it's your own daughter, that's pretty much rape. I don't see much difference.
Rape. It's gross.
You meant incest.
Okay, let's move on, and you got a happier bad dad.
Yeah, let's go to happy.
Like maybe like an alcoholic bad dad at a little league game or a hockey game, punching out a ref, embarrassing their kids.
There's a Homer Simpson in there.
Yeah.
Okay, Pope Sergius III. Look, it's bad enough to be an awful dad, but a bad dad and a pope? That's just sinking to 2 new lows. So, our friend, Pope Sergius, he became one of the worst bad popes in history because he murdered 2 other popes and fathered an illegitimate child who later became pope as well. And he was very cruel and brutal during his reign as pope.
But he did his penance, and God still loves him.
That's right. He says some All Fathers, a couple of Hail Marys, and God was like, cool.
Yeah. You might remember that pope from the 700 Victims Club, or no?
Right.
Okay.
Oh my goodness! But God loved him. God chose him to be pope. So
obviously,
it's a fair shake.
Not only does God love him, he speaks for God.
Well, hold on. I mean, I know we're all doing this in jest, but when you think of a pope who killed a couple of other popes and fathered illegitimate, it fits the profile of God. Actually, it kind of does. God does not.
Maybe he was living up to that standard.
Yeah, maybe he was. Maybe he was a chosen man.
Oh goodness! All right, moving on to Bing Crosby, good singer, bad father.
Really.
Yep.
Really nice guy, but he was a good father to 2 of his kids and crap to the rest, I think.
Yeah, so basically, it's Bing Crosby's son Gary wrote a memoir of his life with his father that depicted him as abusive and cruel. Gary's brother Philip disputed this characterization, but Crosby's 2 other children, Dennis and Lindsay, confirmed Crosby's abuse. The Bing Crosby website asserts that Gary was influenced to exaggerate Crosby's abuse and later recanted some of what was in his memoir. Whatever the truth, the underlying fact is that Crosby may have had a massive career, but it won him no Father of the Year awards. So, I like, and this is the thing. I kind of wonder when people talk about abuse that's happened to them and it becomes like public knowledge, like you're talking about a famous figure. I think they receive such backlash that the trauma, they'll kind of pull back a little bit because they're trying to protect themselves. Yeah. And the pressure is so bad, and they feel guilt on a certain level, especially if it's a public figure and beloved. Because it takes a lot for someone to say, I was horribly abused by my parent and they're famous and I'm going to talk about it. And then have everybody be like, that didn't really happen to you. You're lying. You're just jealous of your parents' success, blah, blah, blah.
You just want in the limelight.
Yeah. When you have a person that's in popular and you have a bit of a following, it's amazing what the followers will bend back. I mean, look at somebody like Donald Trump. I mean, you could just put him in their face and the video evidence, they'll still say, no, he's not like that. No, he's not like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I don't know, because I don't worship anybody, and I'm not emotionally attached to anyone other than that. I admire in the public sphere. And if I found out horrible things about people that I've admired, and I'm like, well, they're art, but they're a horrible person. That's all you got to say. You're good artist, terrible person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So. Moving on, Adrian Peterson, Minnesota Vikings star running back Adrian Peterson was charged with abusing his 4-year-old son with a wooden switch. According to court reports, the boy had scars on his back, arms, thighs, and one of his testicles.
Ouch!
In 2013, Peterson's 2-year-old son died when he was being abused by his mother's boyfriend. However you feel about Peterson, the picture of home life for his children is dark and heartbreaking. Jesus, man. This is not uncommon. This is not the first football person that has been accused of being an abusive jackass. And I'm like, maybe we should, tone down the aggressive sports, just brain damage a bit. I'm not saying the correlation is causation, but I'm sorry, what you're saying, Don?
I think it's chemicals that they're taking. It's not really the football or the sport. It's the chemicals that they're taking to make them the size they are.
Yeah.
And like roid rage, right? So
And cocaine.
and cocaine. So I think it's what they're putting into their bodies that's making them.
But if you had that with a couple of concussion, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Head
there's-
injuries
all
are
kinds of
definitely a
factors.
factor.
Yeah.
Ugh, okay.
Oh.
Number 9, Ivan the Terrible. Finally, guy with a monkey ear that describes his parenting. Terrible. Ivan killed his son in an argument by beating him over the head with a stick. Jesus.
Back in the old days, we used to beat you with a stick.
He also
That I can beat you with.
Yeah,
he caused his daughter-in-law to miscarry when he shook her in a violent rage. Like dudes.
How hard was he shaking her to cause her
Holy shit. Shaking her and banging off the wall or something.
Yeah, I have to imagine it was like he was like beating her, shaking her against something.
That guy was a monster, though. Like he was responsible for some of Russia's most beautiful architecture, but to make sure it couldn't be repeated anywhere, he had the architect's eyes gouged out. It's like, that's,
oh, come on. Ivan the Terrible, he had to be in.
Well,
yeah, he's like a happy kind of guy.
Listen, if you want to keep your secrets, you have to gouge people's eyes out, Troy. Them's the rules.
How it goes.
If you had named him Ivan the Fluffy, maybe people wouldn't take him as seriously. But he had to,
All right.
And number 10, Alec Baldwin.
Oh, wow.
Did he shoot his son on a film set? Seems like every dad here is a killer. So
No, but this is from, I remember this when he left that recording to his 11-year-old a few years ago, where he called her rude and thoughtless pig, and which I doubt that it was the first or last time.
Yeah.
He said abusive, terrible things to his daughter. So yeah, it's just one of those things that kind of looms over him, because like there are times when I look at him, now the shooting thing is more prominent in my memory now, but that I can kind of chalk up to being accidental. The deliberate abusive language you use towards your daughter kind of just kind of lingers above your career, my friend.
I'm just shocked that, if I was Alex and Alec, you just made the list with Ivan the Terrible and the Killer Pope. You might want to rethink your career.
You might want to rethink your choices. So I hope you feel better about your father, or how you are a father, that you haven't killed 2 popes.
Well, you definitely lowered the bar for parenting. It's like, what kind of dad are you? Well, I haven't committed a genocide or murdered anybody. It's
all I did was miss an alimony payment or 2, but thank God, I'm not too bad.
You can pat yourself on the back, all you stirs out there.
Like you could be a dad who responds, "What kids?" and you're still better than the dads on this list.
That's what I'm here to do, to relieve people's guilt.
Oh, maybe next time we'll just do a top 10 list of the best dads. Just to
I'll balance it out. Next week I'll balance it out with something good. I promise.
All right. Thank you so much, Helen.
You are welcome.
You got something for us? Things that make you go,
Sure do. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse banned in the UAE.
What? Give me a break here.
Yeah, ban comes 1 week ahead of the Spider-Man film.
Did Mary Jane show her hair
It's
again?
not even out yet. It's already banned. It's not even out yet.
Yeah, banned 1 week ahead of the Spider-Man's film's intended release.
I'm so excited for this movie. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just excited. Go ahead, Don.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has been banned in the United Arab Emirates, UAE.
Okay, hold on. Pause. They're banning Spider-Man. Okay, pop quiz. Why? I am saying because women are involved somehow. Who wants to bet with that? Is it the women? Is it a trans thing? Is it a black thing? But which one is it?
There's a gay couple.
It could be the parallel world thing. It could be the parallel world thing. I'm leaning towards women, but it could be like alternative universes that's like contrary to Quranic teachings. So
okay, that works. That works too. That's good. Quranic teachings, women or gay. Let's see what we got here.
After failing to pass the country's censorship requirements, the ban comes a week ahead of the film's intended release in the region. According to the Variety, the reason behind this ban could be due to a scene featuring a poster background that depicts the transgender flag.
Oh.
Protect trans lives.
Oh,
I knew it's something queer.
there we go. There we go. We'll give it to Helen for that one.
The UAE,
I don't want to be right.
UAE criminalizes same-sex sexual activity between men and between women. According to the Human Dignity Trust, the transgender expression of trans people is also criminalized in the country, and sentence for perpetrators include a maximum penalty of death.
So I'm just thinking of I'm just thinking of an old fatwa or whatever of where if a woman wants her co-workers to be able to see her not in her burqa, that she can breastfeed them, and then that makes them family, so they can see her without her burqa. And it's like, okay, that's more moral than just accepting people for who they are. But it's
hold on a second.
Is it crazy?
Are you telling me for real here that there was a fatwa there that basically says, okay, so you're this 30-year-old woman, but you work with these people all the time, and you're tired of wearing the burqa, so I say, okay, I'd like to be able to take my burqa off in front of Bob. No, you have to breastfeed Bob, so then he becomes a member of your family, and then that's fine, it's kosher?
Google it. It happened. It was unpopular and got recalled, kind of like how women were.
It was unpopular.
Yeah, because there's crazy fatwas out there. Like there was one fatwa where women weren't allowed to hold bananas or cucumbers because they were so phallic. But when I guess when husbands had to start making their own sandwiches, they got rid of it.
The banana fatwa.
Stop it!
There's some really crazy stuff.
It hurts my brain.
But you go to southern states, to like the fundamentalist churches, they got crazy crap like that too.
Oh yeah, of course.
I know, but like every time I hear this stuff, it just boggles my mind. The mental gymnastics is just.
Is there more to the article?
Yeah.
Please go, keep going.
Okay, keep going, Don.
Sexual activity is prohibited under the criminal codes of the Emirates of Abu Dhabi, which criminalizes unnatural sex with another person.
Unnatural sex. Sex with goat is fine, but unnatural sex is too.
And in Dubai, which criminalizes acts of sodomy. People may also be punished under the Shira law, under which the death penalty is possible, though
Sharia.
There's no evidence there's no evidence that this has been used against the LGBT plus people in the country so far. In addition to the above laws, trans people may also face prosecution under UAE's Federal Penal Code 1987, which criminalizes a male disguising as a female with a maximum penalty of 1 year imprisonment and a fine. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse isn't the only film that has been banned in the UAE. Last year, Disney and Pixar Lightyear was also banned in the country due to the scene depicting a same-sex kiss between two space rangers. In addition to the UAE, it was also banned from Malaysia, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia.
Oh, no.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has grossed around $400 million worldwide in just over 12 days into the cinematic run.
Wow. Okay.
That's it.
Wow.
When I was reading that, there was another one that they would have to. Oh, I can't remember. It just kind of popped into my head. I should have said it of a movie they would have to ban then.
What I find interesting about that is more and more you're seeing these United Arab Emirates and the royal Saudi family making bold moves to try to integrate with the rest of the world. You know, like they're just aligned with the PGA Tour and all that stuff, and they're doing that especially with sports. and concerts and music, and they're bringing their archaic moral code of Islam to the front at the same time by doing that, right? And
yeah,
they're rich, so they're letting money speak, and these associations are basically bending the knee to it. And I think it's just going to run into a whole bunch of trouble down the road.
The movie I was thinking of, it's I can't remember the name of it, but the dad dresses up as as the old lady.
Is this Doubtfire?
Yeah, they would have to ban that stuff too, right?
Yeah, they would, yeah, because they would imprison Robin Williams for disguising himself as a woman for a year in prison.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking Spaceballs with John Candy going, "I'm the bearded lady. Who are you? One of the freaks?"
Oh my!
Was that Mark Candy?
There's been that was John Candy that did the bearded lady in that movie.
It was John Candy.
Yeah, he's done drag a couple times. Like even on SCTV, he used to do drag every now and then for fun. Like drag used to be in cinema and television all the time.
Yeah.
And people saw it as fun. But now all of a sudden
it's fun.
Yeah, but now it's like if you dress in drag, then that instantly makes you trans. It's like
the funny thing is right now the conservatives are losing their mind about drag.
Then.
They're losing their mind about being about drag and all that stuff. But one of the biggest names in conservatism that did drag for fun on stage, Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan did that. Dressed up as a woman and parade on stage.
Yeah, we need some footage or pictures of that to spread around the internet.
They have the footage of that. That's the worst part. They have that. Ronald Reagan was an actor. He did that. Oh, Reagan did drag? Oh, my God. What are we going to do?
Well, that was before the woke agenda, Kevin. So, he gets a pass. It's because of all the wokeness. We can't have that anymore because apparently if a man puts on a dress, all horror of the apocalypse are going to happen, apparently.
Part of me kind of feels that I kind of wish fashion would put dresses for men, because I think it'd be very freeing in a way, to like movement. Sometimes you wear pants like, God, I can't
that's why you get killed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just get killed.
I know a guy on the island discounts. I'll get killed.
Well, what I think is funny is if you go to the UAE, what are all the guys wearing? Long freaking dresses, like no pants.
Exactly.
It's like, no, it's a robe. It's a freaking dress.
It's a dress.
Yeah,
it's a dress, mofo. Like just
because
it's not form fitting does not mean it's you're basically wearing a muumuu. So just relax.
Yeah.
All right, Troy, my friend, you got a myth or truth, myth, or balderdash for us?
Oh yeah,
I want the truth. According to myth, Earth was created in 6 days.
Oh, balderdash.
No more questions. Don't ask any more questions. That's top secret, that is.
Okay, so with it still being Pride Month, I've been looking for myths on theme with celebrating Pride, which brings us this week to China. Or as Trump says, China. This is a 17th century myth, and it's basically gives a backstory and deification of the god who oversees homosexual relationships, and then protects them and also oversees their affairs. He is referred to as the rabbit god, which brings us to the first question, which is a multiple choice. Why would a gay god be called a rabbit god anyways? A, because gay men in China would wear makeup and their pale complexion reminded others of white rabbits. B, because gay men would often meet at night and became associated with the jade rabbit that's visible on the moon's surface. C, because rabbit was a popular derogatory slang for gay men. Or D, because rabbits are just so fabulous.
These are all good answers, actually.
Well, these are good.
I will go with the one the rabbit was just a slang for gay at the time in China.
That is the answer.
Woo!
Gay men were called rabbits back in the Qing Dynasty. This is because in the first year of a rabbit's life, it's really difficult to determine if they're a boy or a girl, which is how gays were seen at that time or place in time. Also around this time, there was a marriage tradition in the Fujian region, also where the legend originates, explaining how the how the god of homosexuality. It's where the legend of the god of homosexuality came from.
It's pretty cool. They actually had a god of homosexuality there.
Yeah, it is cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But,
I worship that god.
Yeah. It was first written about by a king scholar named Huan Muzai. I hope I said that right. In the 18th century, so about 100 years later. At the time, this region actually accepted gay marriages and treated it just like any other marriage, with exception that after 20 years of marriage, men were expected to take on a wife to carry on the family seed. Whenever there was a gay marriage, the youngest male would take on the role as the wife and would be adopted by the groom's family. It was a special kind of love or kinship, which is a little bit unfamiliar to our cultural understanding, but it was kind of like blood brothers with benefits. And my apologies if that came across the wrong way. Or
Sure,
I like it.
Yeah. But either way, so our story begins with a young man called Hio Tanbao, I probably said that wrong too, who became infatuated with the new imperial anti-corruption officer. So what's the big deal about that? It's kind of like a medieval atheist falling in love with an inquisitor from the Spanish Inquisition, and no one would expect that. So why did China need an anti-corruption officer? Well, long story short, China got its butt kicked by the British in the Opium Wars. Even though Britain didn't technically take over China, they did employ some concessions like extraterritoriality. That's a mouthful, which is basically areas that were governed by British law. They had treaty ports, and they expected China to adopt Western morality and culture, aka colonialism light, which is the same pretentious cultural assimilation, but half the calories. So even though homosexuality really wasn't that much of an issue before this, with a few regional exceptions, to keep the British happy, the cultural changes were beginning to take place, so China would seem more Western. So back to our story. The young man falls in love with this anti-corruption officer, which is like a teenage girl falling in love with Andrew Tate, thinking, I can change him.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened next? Well, it's a multiple choice. The young man stalked the officer, followed him around, went to his public trials and watched him and spied on him regularly until one day the officer eventually learned of his intentions. So how did this happen? A, the young man confessed his love with a now famous haiku. B, he brought the officer a gift, but it turned out to be a dick in a box. C, I went Justin Timberlake on that one.
I love it.
C, the officer caught the young man peeking on him in the john. Or D, the officer approached him and asked him what was up with all the creepy stalking.
I'll go with the haiku one.
Haikus
I'll go haiku. I'll go with haiku.
Okay. Haikus are Japanese.
I'm sorry.
That was a trick question. You're right. Haikus are Japanese. Trick question.
I'm so sorry, Japanese people. I apologize.
So he got caught peeking on him in the john. Apparently, the young man didn't realize if you can see someone taking a crap through a bamboo wall, they can see you too. So he confronted the young man, but since the officer being a major homophobe, things didn't work out the way the young man wanted. After shyly confessing his love to the officer, it turned out the fire in the officer's eyes definitely wasn't passion. In one legend, the anti-corruption officer had him arrested and beaten to death. In another version, he immediately struck him down with his sword.
Well, that's not sexy.
No, not at all. It's like
a romantic ending there, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a romantic buzzkill after that. Just kill the.
Yeah.
Okay. So next up, truth, myth, or balderdash. After the young man dies, he finds himself in the afterlife. Guardian deities who watch the whole thing happen were like, sometimes humans can be total douche canoes. We need to do something to keep this from happening again. So they made him the god who oversees homosexual relationships.
Well, it's a myth, obviously.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, true according to the myth. Yeah, so the gods felt sorrow for how brutal his death was, and how he died for such an unjust reason. So they made him an overseer who would bring young couples of the same sex together, help keep them safe, and provide blessings to ensure their happiness. Now, my understanding of Taoist mythology, if it's correct, in their mythology, gods can be several things: spirits of landscapes, forces of nature, spirits of ancestors, and manifestations of the creative power of the universe, aka the Tao. So the what they call a god isn't what we really look at as a god. We think of a god as like some guy worship me or die. Their gods are just like part of the world around them. But either way, also gods are powerless or lose their influence if there's not anybody who's worshiping them, which means we ask the question: how did anybody know that this happened to Huan Tamba? Oh, I messed up that name bad. But how did they find out that he got made a god in the afterlife? Which brings us to the next question: truth, myth, or balderdash? When the moon was just right, Hu Tanbao returned to the world as the rabbit god in the form of a were-rabbit, half man, half rabbit. He confronted the officer, demanding him to make right what he's done wrong. So the officer begs for his mercy and returns to the village, telling his story and paying the money needed to have a shrine erected to honor the man he had killed.
Oh, I love that.
I just love the idea that he's a were-rabbit, but the transformations like
if he's long teeth like this, he does.
Yeah, he still has ears and the fluffy tails. Like, oh,
make things right, or I'll just gnaw you with my little teeth.
You can make things right now. Unzip the pants.
Yeah, your sword is no match for these choppers.
Yeah.
Oh God! What was the question again?
Truth, myth, or balderdash?
Yes. I don't know. I'll stick with still myth, I guess, but I'll stick with truth.
I really want to just put this to be part of the myth because the were-rabbit just like makes me happy.
Balderdash, I completely made it up, but I do think it would be a much cooler ending.
I did. Like I was all excited about the were-rabbit. Yeah. Now you ruined it for me.
Yeah. The actual myth is a little bit more boring. Hu Tanbao actually returned to visit several of his kinsmen in their dreams, and while taking on the form of a white rabbit, he told them the story and how he's now known as Tuer Shen, which translates to the rabbit god. The villagers erected a shrine in his honor, and several more were erected in the surrounding area. They did their best to keep the shrine's purpose a secret, as the times they were a-changing. And since the era was now known as the Century of Shame, it probably wasn't changing in a good way. But word got out eventually about the shrine dedicated to a homosexual god, which would seem revolting to Western standards, so the shrines had to go. So they were destroyed, and those who prayed there were labeled as dangerous cultists. Next question, multiple choice. The justification for destroying these shrines was due to its links to the homosexual, its links to homosexuality, which was no longer accepted thanks to the British influence over the Chinese government. So, how did the government justify these changes to the Chinese people? So how did they justify them? A, claiming the sight of gay shrines would groom their young and make them gay too, and put children in danger of predators like the gays.
Sounds incredibly common and still something we hear today, isn't it?
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
History just keeps repeating itself. Weird.
B, reinterpreting the teachings of Confucius in order to vilify the gays. Also familiar with the how the Bible's read. Mm-hmm. Or C, they just created new laws and disobeying the laws was illegal. Or D, all of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yep. All of the above. The shrines were depicted images of gay marriage, which was illustrated by a young man embracing an older man. Officials claimed that after seeing such statues, quote, All those debauched and shameless rascals, on seeing youths or young men, desire to have illicit intercourse with them, praying for assistance from their plaster idol. Then they make plans to entice and obtain the objects of their desire. So, in other words, think about the children, and they're coming for our children. Yeah, it seems this trope works in every time or place. So.
It's the ancient version of Alex Jones saying they're turning the frogs gay, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does every single culture all the time have a gay panic? Like
when the British came along, they sure did.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, and I'm sure none of the redcoats were, doing kinky stuff with each other in the background at all.
Yeah.
You know what? I hate to say it, but this is just me. Maybe it's because I'm French. But when I think of British, I never think of British as manly men. I never think of macho British with this pot of tea.
All the British people I know, all the British people I know are just like dudes, like every other dude I know, like just a guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So either way, they also misrepresented what Confucius wrote. Who said it wasn't right to have sex outside of marriage, thus making gay sex immoral. This doesn't make much sense, though, as people of the region already had gay marriage, meaning gay sex was never out of wedlock. But like I said, never argue with someone holding a sword. So so the shrines were all destroyed, and after these new laws took effect, Tuer Shen was nearly lost to history. If you're looking for a happy ending, though, and I'm coming up to the end, I actually have one. In recent decades, Tuer Shen has been making a comeback. A Taoist monk in 2006 constructed a new shrine dedicated to Tuer Shen, making it the only homosexual shrine in the world. You can find it in New Taipei in Taiwan, and over 9,000 gay pilgrims visit there each year. He's also depicted in several movies and even one episode of American Gods.
Nice.
In closing, it's a safe bet there's no such thing as a rabbit god, but the myth could easily be based on actual events, minus the supernatural claims, and add a village wanting to immortalize the victim of a horrid act. For those who do believe, though, in one form or another, Tuer Shen and his shrine provides a safe place for a small minority of people to reflect, find comfort, and perhaps even find the relationship they're praying for. And this way, Tuer Shen may be the more useful and more loving than most of the gods out there. The end.
Yeah.
So
we should totally do a skit where Tuer Shen comes to the Abrahamic God, that's played by Brad Lee on our show, and it's like, dude, you guys are destroying all my followers. You need to stop this, and then you should have. I can't go back being the Easter Bunny for another century or so. Okay, I'm done. This thing drives itself. We should do that.
That's so nice, though. Like, because religion kind of fucks everything up, and it's just kind of nice to have this little nice God that the queers can go to and feel comforted, and that they're not ostracized and they're part of something bigger. Even if you don't believe, I would go there because it would just be like, this is where my people are accepted, and and we need more of that in the world.
Yeah, keep in mind, in our Western culture, we're raised in a religious background of where everything is either good or is evil, and you have to judge and punish accordingly. In Taoism and Taoism and Shintoism and blah blah blah, the world is inherently good, capable of corruption. But it's a case where you're kind of going with the flow. You're trying, they don't have the binary pretext, whatever, that brings out all the nastiness people are capable of. But
and I also think that if somehow you're looking for a Tuer Shen shrine, you might want to check out AdamandEve.com, where if you use the promo code LATV, you'll get 50% off your Tuer Shen shrine, and you'll get a free gift for her, a free gift for him, and a free gift for both of you, and 6 videos as well. Look at that.
And don't forget the rabbit.
Don't forget the rabbit.
Yeah, you can get your own rabbit.
You get your own true shit
on adamandeve.com.
Fun, so you want the rabbit.
You want the rabbit.
It's a fun rabbit.
It's a fun rabbit.
It's a good time rabbit.
I was talking about Cheer Shen. I'm not sure what rabbit you guys are talking about.
Well, go to adamandeve.com, Troy, and you will find out.
Okay. Does this rabbit take batteries?
Let's take a quick pause. And when we come back, we'll be with Armin Navabi, and we'll be talking to him about his journey and everything else. All right, stay with us.
All right.
Our next guest is Armin Navabi. He's a snappy dresser and a snazzy dancer and a prolific creator. Armin, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. No.
You get the golf clap. Our waves never work out well, though.
Round of applause. There you go.
Armin,
wow.
I'm so glad to finally have you on the show. I gotta say, I'm a huge admirer of your work and what you do, because God knows you're all over the place and you do so much work. But maybe for people that are not familiar with your work, maybe you'd be so kind to give us a quick bio as to who Armin Navabi is.
I'm the founder of Atheist Republic, author of the book Why There Is No God, host on the show Secular Jihadists, and yeah, that's about it. I get bored talking about myself, so if you having that, I'll just say that.
Well, that's a bit of a problem, because that's the whole basis of the show here. We're trying to find out more.
Okay.
I can bring out my inner narcissist, and we can just talk about me if you want. It's going to be a crappy interview, though.
The reason he's got the big picture right now, and we got the smaller pictures. We're focusing on Armin. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe you give us
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe you want to start with your journey out of into apostasy, I guess.
Yeah, okay, that's a good start. Yeah, so how far back do we want to go?
As far as
maybe I'll just tell you the story. Okay, maybe I'll just tell the story that I've said a million times already. So, when I was a kid, when I was introduced to the concept of hell, I immediately became terrified and also confused. Terrified because I was, I realized that there's a place that we could end up in and we will be tortured for eternity. That's a potential outcome of our destiny. That's our
YouTube feed.
Yeah. But also confused because nobody seemed that worried, which is to me seemed insane. Because even as a kid, I couldn't understand why people around me believe in hell, but they don't seem very concerned about ending up there. And as I kept on growing and thinking about it, it seemed like there should be no other priority in one's life other than avoiding going there. How could these people around me, if you ask them if they actually believe in hell, and the potential of being tortured, unimaginable pain for eternity, and how could you even think about, I don't know, what we're eating tonight, what should I wear at this party, how's my career going, how much I'm making, can we afford that car? How could you even bother spending any moment thinking about that when this, you're thinking about this temporary life where you should, priority number 1, 2, 3, up till 1,000 should be how could I make sure that this doesn't happen to me, right? So, and I'm still confused actually to this point because do these people actually believe in hell or do they act like they believe in hell?
Yeah. If I can cut in for a sec though, in Christianity, you had the concept of hell, the fear of being punished, but you have Jesus being treated as an escape clause to get out of that, and that's why you need to follow the religion. So in Islam, what's the equivalent of the escape hatch to keep away from hell? Is that why people aren't so worried, or is there an escape hatch in Islam, or?
Not as much as there is in Christianity. In fact, it's a little bit. This is one thing that I think makes a little bit more sense in Islam than Christianity, because in Christianity, all sins can be forgiven through Jesus. Correct, right? Mm-hmm. However, in Islam, there's two types of sins: sins against God and sins against man. Right? So sins against God is like you missed your prayer, you didn't fast during Ramadan, right? Or stuff like that. Stuff that you didn't go to the Hajj, to Mecca, even though you could, right? These are sins against your duties to God that you didn't do, and those types of sins, they could be forgiven by God if you repent. But there's also sins against man. And sins against man will not be forgiven by God if that person that you sinned against, like if I punch somebody in the face, right? Or if I lie to my mom or whatever, God will not forgive them unless that person that you sinned against forgives you. So there's no loophole. There's no go around the person that you wronged.
So if you cut someone off in traffic and flip them the finger, you're driving around town the rest of the day trying to figure out where they are so you can apologize? Or it's like you can't apologize for everything.
No, you kind of screwed if they die before they forgive you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so then you have no access to them. But you will still end up eventually in heaven, but for all the things that you've wronged, for all the people that you've wronged, and that they have not forgiven you, you're going to be tortured for those in hell before you end up going to heaven.
Okay. Oh,
right.
You guys, something like your military service. You got to do a couple of years before you get get the benefit.
So that's more from the Hebrew belief, where like hell was like a purifying fire instead of like a punishment fire.
Oh yeah, okay.
So the way our religion teacher in school tried to explain this to us was with the allegory of a person that borrowed like a very small amount of money, like one coin from a person, and he forgot to pay it back. And then one day he remembered, like, oh shit, I am supposed to pay this guy back. I borrowed money from him. And he goes to a store and like everything is shut down. I don't know if the guy died or something, but so he just slips the coin under the store so it goes into the store. And then he goes to sleep that night and he dreams of hell where that coin has been heated like red hot and put on his skin for like, I don't know for how long, because he didn't pay the guy back. So like even the smallest amount of harm that you do to another person will come and haunt you back in hell. So that's how we understood it. Yeah.
That's terrible. That's good.
That's the reason why I always borrow money from pessimists, because they don't expect it back anyway. Right? So that's the way.
No, but would they forgive you? That's the point. Even if they don't expect it, they might not forgive you.
No, because they wouldn't forgive you because they would still be suffering. Because forgiveness would mean it will leave you of suffering. So
Oh God.
Yeah. So was that the deal breaker for you, or just like the?
No. That's no. That so. How much money? That's not it.
How much money did you go to hospital?
I left Islam because I didn't want to pay people back. So what happened is I found so you were looking for a loophole. Okay? Yes. Islam doesn't have that loophole. But that's what they say. Okay? They say it actually makes more sense. Like in Christianity, you could go commit genocide and rape 1,000 people, kill 1,000 people, and then go to Jesus like, I'm sorry, and Jesus like, it's okay. And those people are like, what? Why is Jesus forgiving you? You wronged us. Yeah, it's okay. I don't care about you guys. Jesus forgive me, so I'm okay now, right? So Muslims are like, that is stupid. Our religion obviously makes more sense. When you wrong somebody, they are the person that have to forgive you, right? So Muslims are like bragging about how stupid Christianity is in this point, right?
I love this.
Oh my
God. So.
Yeah, in all honesty, nothing is more funnier than watching a Christian and Muslim debate each other, and it's like, and just some of the logic that will go back and forth. It's kind of like what you're just saying, how it's how Muslims will think that Christians are completely bonkers, and it'll go vice versa too. But either way, carry on.
Okay. So here's the thing. Here's another thing that we were told in our school by our religious teacher. And I know if one day a Muslim sees this, they might be like, well, we were told differently. That Armin's version of Islam is wrong. I don't care. This is what we were told, okay? This is the version that we were taught, okay? And we were told that, and the part that is similar among Muslims is that you don't sin before the age of reason. Oh, this is another thing they brag about that they have over Christianity. They're like, these Christians, they're stupid. You're born, you're a baby, you already have sin? Yeah, like the concept of original sin. They're like, it's a baby. It's a baby. How could it have sin? Like Muslims are like, you can't be responsible for the sins of your ancestors. As a baby, you're pure, you're sinless, you're ma'asum, as they say, right? Like so they say like, oh, again, Christianity doesn't make sense. Islam makes more sense. Babies have not sinned. You have to actually reach the age of reason before you could be held accountable for your actions, right? And so they laugh at the concept of original sin for you as a baby to be responsible for like the sins of Adam and Eve or whatever. So they say in Islam, they all believe that you have to reach the age of reason before, like, there are two angels, right? They write down your sins. They all, like, one of them write down your sins, the other one writes down your good deeds, right? And at the day of judgment, these books will be open and they will look at it and see what you have, right? But before you hit the age of reason, these two angels that are on your shoulders, their books are empty. It's like wiped clean. They have written nothing down. They are waiting for you to hit the age of reason so that you can be responsible for your actions, right? So now this part is the age of reason part is agreed among different sects of Islam. But what that age of reason is, there's disagreements on that, right? What we were told is that the age of reason for boys is 15 and for girls is 9. Right?
Well, of course.
So, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
I mean,
that's
I
also
know
the
we
age of
mature
marriage.
faster, but not
no,
much.
It's not that we were told is because girls. Oh, look how pro women we are. Girls, we are saying girls mature faster, right? But then I later realized that has more to do with the age of marriage than who matures faster. It's because
of course.
Now you made it gross.
I'll be honest. That's one thing that always bugged me a little bit about making Muhammad so benevolent and stuff. It's like the guy married like a little girl. He consummated his marriage at age 9, and there's always this argument of like, well, those were the times. Like it was acceptable back then. It's like, this is like a prophet of God. He's supposed to know better. Like he should know that is not right to take advantage of young girls like that. You were just supposed to say something that it wasn't okay back then, or
oh no, 9 was even too young, even for back then. 9 was too young. Okay, like when we're saying back then, we're talking 12, 13. 9 was like pushing it, even by that standard, by those.
See, my understanding was, my understanding is as soon as they started menstruating, it was time to marry them off.
But most little girls don't menstruate at the age of 9. I'm pretty damn sure.
No, but you have exceptions.
It happened, the occasional one, but most of them is after that, right? Ladies, back me up here.
Average age is 11 to 13.
Well, and also the Quran says tells you about what to do with your wives when it comes to like certain when it comes to divorce and stuff, and it categorizes your wives into two sects: those wives that have reached the age of menstruation and those that haven't. So suggesting that you could have wives that haven't yet even menstruated. So it's not about menstruation.
Yeah. There's also I was going to say there's also like a really creepy hadith where there's a really creepy hadith where a guy's talking with Muhammad and he's getting married, and Muhammad says like, who are you marrying? And he says, well, a matron. And he's like, well, why not marry a young girl or whatever? They're fun to play with and they can play with you. And I'm just like, how freaking like in today's culture, is that not a red flag? Or it's I guess you just dismiss it because it's Muhammad, or I don't know how.
Oh no, we don't dismiss it. We attack Islam for these things. We don't dismiss it at all.
No, I'm talking about Muslims.
Also, this. Oh yeah, they have so many excuses. I could go through a list, and we have an answer for every one of them. Some of them are so stupid. Some of them are like, in the heat, girls mature faster. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
So you're putting them in the oven to bake them to make them
This is why they didn't want women to hold bananas, because they ripen too quickly in the heat.
Well, Helen's down in Florida, so she's more mature than all of us.
I'm so mature. I'm the maturest one on this panel. All right.
Remember to roll over so you're baked on both sides.
That's right. That's important.
Yeah.
They also say back then girls matured faster. That's also completely nonsensical. Our genetics of the humans have not changed that much since the past, 100,000 years, and this is only 1,400 years ago. We are not biologically that different from people 1,400 years ago, so that's stupid. But there's a list of excuses. I've heard every single one of them, and I have. But the point is that it's 9 for girls and it's 15 for guys, and that means that you can't sin. As a boy, I could not have sinned before I reached age 15. Right, so I'm sinless
already.
So you could do whatever you wanted, and got away with it until you turn 15.
Right. You could have like 13-year-old Kevin here being a little shit, running around causing a lot of problems. I'm not sinning.
That's right. I'm not sinning.
But I hear, Armin, on that same branch, a quick detour here, I hear that's also an issue because a lot of these young men and young women, these kids, when they realize they're reaching the age of accountability, decide to commit suicide. Is that a thing too?
That's not a thing, but that's what I try to do.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Because this is where I was getting to, right? So the thing is that suicide, okay, is a sin in Islam. If you commit suicide, you will go to hell. However, there's no sin before age 15, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought to myself, where do sinless people go if they die? People who haven't sinned, when they die, there's only 2 destinations. There's either hell or heaven. You're not going to go to hell. You have no sins.
That's right.
So you end up going to heaven, right? Suicide will get you to hell, but not if I do it before age 15. So given that I was looking for a guaranteed, solution not to go to hell, I thought I should just quit this game before it gets too late.
Yeah,
I should just,
makes sense.
I should just kill myself and make sure that I don't end up in hell. I found my get out of jail free card. I was like, I found a loophole. I found a loophole in the system, right? So I jumped out of the window of my school, right?
Holy.
And I broke both my legs. I broke my hand. I fractured my back. I almost cut my spine, right? Because I fractured the bone in my back. But I was so lucky that it didn't go all the way to cut my spine. I was in a wheelchair and my bed for like 7 months. I missed 1 year of school. And the only reason why I didn't try it again is because I saw what it did to my mom and dad. Like it destroyed them. And I felt bad for that. So that's what I tried to do. It made sense given the premises that I was working with. Like I couldn't understand why other people didn't do this. Like why would I gamble heaven or I even went and checked with my religion teacher to make sure I have everything right.
Mm-hmm.
I went and asked my religion teacher, like, okay, why would I not just commit suicide and make sure I go to heaven? And the only reason he had for me not to commit suicide is like, well, if you die as a child, you go to the shittiest part of heaven. He didn't use those words. This is my wording. Okay. He basically said that heaven has different layers. The best layer, the best part of heaven is for martyrs. That's where Muhammad is also, right? So that's the best part, right? And the most boring part of heaven is the part where children go because they didn't even have a chance to live, right? And like, why? And he said, why wouldn't you just grow up and be a proper Muslim and earn heaven, and you get to go to a better part of heaven instead of the boring part of heaven? I thought to myself, this guy's an idiot. I don't care about which part of heaven I go to. I just don't want to go to hell. I will take I would take a parking lot for eternity, as long as it guarantees that I won't end up in hell. Right? Well, so I'm like, okay, this guy, go on.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, that's based, like, the different layers of the 7 layers of heaven, that's based on like an ancient cosmology, where it's like each celestial sphere or planet or moon or orbital.
Yes.
So it's like, I commit suicide, I'm living on the moon. That doesn't sound so bad. Free cheese. But it's
I should pack in some wine and crackers, I guess.
Okay. But that's one thing that I find interesting is, like, there's a lot of ancient Islamic cosmology of where you have a geocentric universe with the Earth in the middle, flat. And then each celestial sphere going around it. And the only difference between the Muslims and the Christians was the Christians believed in 9 and the Muslims believed in 7. But it's if you go through the Quran, though, you'll see all these references to this completely debunked geocentric system, but yet you'll hear people say how scientific the Quran is. But but it just comes back to, you're raised to believe something, and you try to make sense out of it, not realizing that it's not a reliable source. And the fact that it drove you to something so desperate just shows how, like, toxic and damaging, like, some beliefs can be. But it's either way. That's just my take on it.
False, I still to this day think my logic was 10 out of 10. The problem were the premises. So this is basically what you're saying, Troy, is that if you have faulty premises, even if you apply the best logic to them, you still get shitty conclusions out of them.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. And we see that nowadays, like with all the attacks on LGBTQ people, and it's like they're taking false premises without enough information, and they're mixing in their philosophical arguments or theological arguments from the religion, and it just creates a whole bunch of nasty stuff. But go on. I'm sorry, I interrupt sometimes or a lot.
No, it's okay.
We do that a lot on the show. We take a left all the time.
It's okay. No, it's more fun this way. So I failed, as you can see. I failed in killing myself.
I'm glad that you did.
Well,
thank you, Helen. I thought you were going to say, "Oh, shucks."
You quitter.
I'm not the sharpest tool in the kid, but did you live?
So I end up reaching the age 15, and I'm like, fuck, I have to now play this game that nobody asked me. Also, I was kind of like frustrated. Like, how is it that nobody checked with us if we are okay with, like, this is a game that we're thrown into, and the consequences of losing is so high. Why was I not asked if I want to even participate? Like, I am here against my will. I actually asked that my religion teacher, like, how is this not a violation of our will? Like, I didn't consent to this, and they have thought about these things for 1400 years, so they have an answer to this. They're like, no, you were asked before you were born, and you said yes. You just don't remember. Like, oh shit!
Is that in writing somewhere?
That's convenient.
So
this is where Allah's angel appears. They, with a big briefcase and all the documents. Here's Annex 3-7. Here's your signature down there, sir.
But is that promise notarized?
Yeah. Also, they mock us. By the way, they're like, we're stupid because apparently God asked like a whole bunch of other things, like ask the mountains and ask a whole bunch of things. They were like, this is too much. This load of this is too too high, right? Like we're not like everybody was like, no, we're not going to do that. And then humans like, sure, like okay, we'll do it. And like, and people are like, and they make fun. And the angels were like, these monkeys are idiots. Like what they know what they're saying yes to, right? Because and apparently we were the fools who accepted it. Anyways, so
well, it does track. So
Gabriel's talking to God up.
Agreed to all type of stupid stuff, so it tracks.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of Gabriel up in heaven talking to Allah or whatever and saying, "See what you did? You broken perfectly good monkeys."
Not the monkeys. Oh, I like those.
Monkeys.
Or great apes or whatever.
Yeah, great apes. I know.
I am a monkey, Troy. Don't misspecies me.
So what was the Sorry, go on.
No, so I reached 15. I was like, now I'm stuck in this. I have to play this game. I have to do the prayers. I'm like, you know what? How hard could this be? I pray, I fast, and I don't hurt anybody. You're good to go. That's easy peasy. Okay,
right.
But then age 15. Okay, that's also. I thought it was easy, but that's the age when you start noticing things, okay? Specifically for me, as a straight guy, you notice girls more and more, right? And here's a problem with Allah, okay? The problem with Allah is that He is not just a tyrant on what you do, okay? But He's also a tyrant of your mind. Like what I mean is that it's not just what you do that could be a sin, okay? It's also what you think that could be a sin. So all those disgusting, filthy, dirty thoughts that I'm having, he's seeing every single one of them, and they're all sins. And I'm a teenage boy. What can I do, right? And this is like, I realize that this is a nightmare. This is hell on earth. This is so much more difficult than I realized. Because you are
writing and writing.
Yeah. Those angels are working overtime. Right?
When you're a Christian, you have the same worry when you're a Christian, like growing up. It's like God's watching me all the time. Next thing you know, it's like you're jerking off underneath a lead plate, hoping that it blocks his X-ray vision.
It's not stupid, man.
So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Also, here's another problem. So I'm trying to save my skin from burning, okay? But I'm also constantly terrified about the idea that my parents are shitty Muslims, okay? My dad drinks beer. My mom, they never pray. They never go to the mosque. The only time they go to a mosque is if somebody's getting married or somebody's dead, right? They never fast, and I'm trying to convince them because I don't want them to burn, and it's not working. I'm not gonna. That story is long. I'm not gonna get into that.
In their defense, though, religion did drive their kid to suicide. It's like.
Well, I didn't tell them at that point that why did I do that. They thought I was depressed or something. I was not depressed. My life was fantastic. Okay, my life was really, really great. So I think I'm one of the few people in the world that was not sad or depressed and still tried to kill himself. So I don't know how many other people do that, but I was one of them. Right?
I don't think you're the first person because of religion.
No, I'm not first. I said few. Yeah.
Few, but but I'm saying over history, because I remember when I was a kid, I didn't act, but I was like, why am I going to try so hard to follow these rules and make my life so difficult when I could just kill myself and be with God?
You did think that too?
I did think that, but the thing is, though,
oh my God,
in the Catholic Church, at no time can you, if you commit suicide, you're guaranteed in hell. Because I was a Catholic and I've been sinful since I was born. Because my ancestors, because it all goes back to Adam and Eve fucking in Garden Eden, and because human beings is original sin, you're born with sin.
But you
So,
see, what
you know,
we
it
did
was a loophole.
instead of accepting the sin of Adam and Eve, we decided to monetize them by going to AdamandEve.com.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a good play. Okay, so I also noticed a whole bunch of, like, in Iran, we watch Hollywood movies. My dad always watched the BBC. Everyone's actual religion is soccer, right? And so people watch soccer all the time. So there's all these non-Muslims that I'm constantly seeing, and I'm like, every single one of these people are going to go to hell. Like, does that make sense? Like, this BBC news anchor, he's going to burn in hell. Like, these Hollywood actors that we all love and everybody seems to enjoy, they're all going to burn in hell forever because they're not Muslim. And I was like, that doesn't seem, very
Nice.
kind, nice. It's not nice, right? And I'm like, you know what? Maybe these people who are explaining Islam to me, maybe the Christians and the Jews and everybody else, maybe they're kind of Muslim-ish, maybe Islam light, maybe Islam is not necessarily mean that you have to believe exactly in these things. And so I went and tried to understand other religions to convince myself that these people are not going to go to hell, because that does not seem fair, right? So I went and picked up a book in the library. It was The History of Religion, and I started reading it just to start to make sense of other religions. And yeah, that's where it all started, because the more I studied the history of religion, the more I thought, this is obviously man-made. Is everybody else an idiot? How could I see that this is obviously a human-made concept, and why is nobody else noticing this? Like,
because they're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I'm going insane. I thought, Armin, are you so arrogant to think that all these people around you, all of these educated people, all these doctors, all these professors, all my teachers, my parents, everybody, they all have gotten it wrong. And you think you're so big brain that you started studying the history of religion, and you're like, what the hell? This is man-made? I'm like, I'm probably insane, because I have not discovered something that everybody else around. Because guys, I was not like these other atheists that discovered Richard Dawkins or Carl Sagan or Christopher Hitchens. Okay, when I became an atheist, I did not know any other atheists. I was just studying the history of religion. I was like, this is definitely insanity.
Same here.
Because how could I be the only one that is noticing that this is made up? So I started a community online to see if anybody else is, because I was like, let me see if there's anybody else like me out there. And I called it the Atheist Republic. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's how it all started. Anyway, that's it. Yeah, so that's how I became an atheist.
Here's a question for me. For me, it was like actually learning the history behind Christianity that kind of I came to the same epiphany. It's obviously made up, but at the same time, it's like I said, well, let's give Islam a chance then. So I started looking into Islam, but it's like, well, if I was going to go through the historicity of Christianity, I better do the same thing with Islam, and it turned out that was just as made up. But it's like, did you go through a phase where it's like you tried out different religions, or it was just like you just decided atheism was like the logical choice and you stuck with it?
No, I started with caveman religion. By the time I reached ancient Egypt, I was convinced that this is all just a man-made concept. I didn't have to. I thought I'm going to go all the way to like religions and then Abrahamic religions. But by ancient Egypt, I was done. Like, this is like, I know what this is. I understand that this is a man-made thing.
Okay. You will fuck up your religious belief for sure. Yeah. Armin, you have no idea how much. I just want to just give you a big hug, man. I just love your story. I love that when you tell it. So good. Because I see in your journey, I see shades of, slightly different of my journey and everybody else's journey. You had a very similar journey to all of us, and I just love the tenacity. And it's like, I thought the same thing. It's like, are you telling me that all these scientists out there can't figure this out? It's like, what? come on, Kev, you made a mistake somewhere. Come on, go check your math or something. He's like, no. I had these same thoughts too, right?
I was watching one lecture by Neil deGrasse Tyson one time, and he was talking about the power of social indoctrination, of how people will hear the same thing over and over again, and they'll believe it's true when it's not. And like a perfect example he gave was in the summer, the days get longer, and in the winter, the days get shorter. When in reality, summer begins at the equinox where the days start to get shorter again. And it's the opposite for the winter, the very opposite of what everybody will answer, because that's what they were raised to think. And, you know, you apply that to like religion, and you'll have people that will just automatically assume Jesus was a real person, despite the historicity. They'll just automatically assume Muhammad was a real person because of like, that's the way the history was written, without actually asking the questions like, what proof do we actually have? And it comes up pretty weak. It's like even the premise of the Quran is like you can answer me if I'm wrong with this, but it's like my understanding of the Quran is it's a book in heaven that was dictated to Muhammad by an angel, who was then said to us, which he then repeated to his subjects, who then repeated it to Abu Bakr like a couple years after he died, decades later. And then you have a whole bunch of revisions and wars and changes, and then it gets you to the book what you have today, and not a single copy error in the last 1400 years. It's like people like I'll hear Muslims say that like the Quran is a book in heaven, and you look through the history of what the book went through, and it's just like, it's just so fantastic. It's a case where how can you believe that it could possibly be accurate, but that's what you're told over and over again. So you just accept it because that's what everybody says. So it's like, and you'll have even scientists or whatever that'll repeat that because that's what they were taught. And it leads people like you and myself and others to just assume that the scientists are right, when in reality they're just basing on what they were told. But either way, that's one of my tangents.
Armin,
am I wrong with that definition though? It's is that how that's pretty much how the Quran got copied, right? According to dogma.
Well, there's a lot more detail, but give or take, is close enough. Yes, close enough. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Okay. I mean, if you open that can of worms, I'll be here for the next couple of hours. So don't ask me specifics about this.
Ask everybody here. I'm an expert at. Oh yeah, ask everybody here. I'm an expert at going over time. It's what I do.
And opening cans of worms. Yeah. Armin, now that you've left Islam and your apostasy and all that, I mean, there's obviously been some, fight back against you and what you all the stuff that you produce and all that. So, I mean, what are you essentially trying to accomplish here? Are you an anti-Islam person? Are you trying to bring people to reason? What exactly is the message that Armin Navabi is leaving out there?
Well, I mean, I guess we have a list of goals that we have, a list of reasons why we do what we do. But I always like to remind myself that before trying to inform people, we do try to inform people. We do try to improve critical thinking skills. We do try to fight false beliefs, whether it's Islam, Christianity, or superstitious belief, or any other false belief. Islam and God and Christianity, these are just the biggest ones, but these are just target practice for all false beliefs, right? We do also try to, at the same time that we fight these dogma, also reach out to the people that believe these dogma, because we try to promote the idea that we could fight ideas, but still befriend the people that have those ideas, right? We try to say that we have strong disagreements, but we try to promote the idea that these strong disagreements does not have to come in the way of friendship. We could hate each other's ideas and still even love each other. We don't have to. agreement should not be a condition for friendship, right? So we try to promote that idea as well. We try to desensitize people, right? So sometimes it's not about informing people. It's also about useless sensitivity. That's why we do blasphemy. That's why we do burning the Quran and stuff like that, because we think that when you are threatened not to do something, then it's important that some people do like when you're threatened against, your life is threatened, or there are laws telling you not to express something in a certain way, then it would be a good idea to do those exact same things, because those methods of threats to people's lives shouldn't work, right? And this is not about the Quran even. If you just tell me, oh, don't insult this cookbook, or else we will, hurt you, or else we will kill you, then I think it would be a good idea if 1,000 of us go and burn that cookbook, regardless of the content, even if it's a good book, right? Because that threat shouldn't be working, right? Yeah. And again, when we do that, we don't do it to anyone else's book. We're not trying to eliminate the book. It's a book that we purchased, right? Even like we're trying to reduce the harm as much as possible. I'm not burning the books anymore. We're like, because of, the environment, we're like ripping it apart or spitting on it just because we want to be safer and also more environmentally friendly. Also, we don't do that to anyone else's Quran. It's our book. And also we give trigger warnings because we want to tell Muslims that we're not trying to hurt their feelings, okay? We're just trying to tell you that you don't get to tell us not to do this. If you don't want to see something, it's your responsibility not to see it, right? It's not our responsibility not to do it. So we do give trigger warnings to people so that they have the choice not to see what they don't want to see, okay? So the responsibility is on them. So desensitization, breaking taboos, making burgers out of people's sacred cows, but among all of these things, and among all of these things that we're trying to do, I think the most important one of them is the very first reason that I started Atheist Republic, right? So all of these informing, activism stuff it's all secondary to making atheists feel normal, having a place for them where they are not demonized, they're not ostracized, they don't feel otherized, they feel like they belong. If they're not accepted by the society that they're in, they feel like there's a place for them to belong, because I needed that. When I became an atheist, I thought alone and I didn't have any place, so I started Atheist Republic, so I have that place. So that's going to that will always be the very first intention of why we do what we do.
Okay, I think it's really what you're doing, because we have shades of similar experiences, but me coming from a Catholic and then paganism background, then to atheism, is different than someone that's come out of leaving the Islamic traditions or leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. And when you at Recovering from Religion, we have communities on our platform of people that come from similar backgrounds, because there are certain stories and intricacies and histories that you understand from that religion, that you're not going to get, talking to I don't know much about the Muslim religion. I know what I've observed colloquially, but I haven't studied it. But if someone's talking to someone that really understands the intricacies and grew up in it, you're going to have that bond, and you're going to be able to talk to that person about why certain things are ridiculous and why we have to break down these concepts, even within a faith structure, because not every faith structure is the same. And how to break down those bad ideas by talking to someone that knows exactly what you're talking about. And I think that's really one of the really great things that you do, because you're giving the community that you came from a place to fall and discuss those ideas. So I think that's great.
Oh, thank you.
You got to give the guy too. Look at the background. He's a great decorator. I mean, I'm just staring at the background.
Fancy. You are fancy.
You, man, they're looking pretty damn good there.
Thank you.
So another question. These days is you'll hear the word Islamophobia pop up a lot, and in culture we'll see people attack Muslims, and it seems like that gets conflated with attacking Islam. And it's like, it just seems like there's a delicate balance between attacking the religion and while not attacking the people in that religion. So it's like, do you find that difficult, or do you just make sure that you stay on topic and just talk about the text and the history and the logic? Or
I mean, it shouldn't be difficult to understand, but there are certain people that try to make it difficult because I think it would serves them for it to be confusing, And this is why I hate the word Islamophobia, right? I try to get people, and I fail to get people to try to use the term anti-Muslim bigotry, right? Because what we are having a problem with is people targeting Muslims. The word Islamophobia, the use of that word makes it so easy to now go and try to silence people who are targeting Islam but not targeting Muslim, because it has Islam, like Islamophobia is a fear of Islam, right? So, and I think it's such a disservice. It's such a disservice to Muslims who are being targeted to use them as a shield to protect the ideology. Like you have people who are being tortured, killed, targeted, imprisoned for being Muslim, for only the crime of being Muslim, right? And it's devastating. And a lot of people, when they think Islamophobia, the thing that they call them Islamophobia, which I call anti-Muslim bigotry, they think about what's happening in North America and Europe, but you have no idea how me as an anti-Islam activist, I'll tell you that this thing is much, much bigger than many people realize. The amount of targeting of Muslims globally that happens it's a nightmare, right?
Yeah, especially China.
And India, China and India, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Is horrible, right? And for people to use these bodies and the harm that is being done to them as a way to use their victimization as a way to create a shield to protect Islam. It's disgusting and it's gross, right? Like, for example, and they use this whole sensitivity that the world has through violations of human rights to highlight Islamophobia. Like, oh my God, look at all these mistreatments of Muslims that should be highlighted. And like Islamophobia, because they use the word Islamophobia because it's a so purposefully vague term, and then now people want to fight Islamophobia, and now when it's time to fight Islamophobia, what they target is people who are targeting Islam instead of actually going after people who are fighting Muslims, right? Which is so dishonest, such a trick, and it's horrible. And it's, and for example, I have so many examples like this that I could give you, but Imran Khan, right? Previous prime minister in Pakistan, right? He is now the guy that pushed for International Islamophobia Day, right? And the things, after getting all these countries and all these international institutions to back this and get behind this, because Islamophobia is actually a growing trend and we need to fight. But what are they fighting? They're fighting drawing Muhammad. They're fighting people being disrespectful to Islam, okay? And they ask Imran Khan, why do you guys not ever talk about what's happening in China? Yeah. Okay, why do you guys not talking about more than 1 million people, more than 1 million Muslims that were put in concentration camps in China just for being Muslim? And you know what he said? He's like, they give us a lot of money. We need them financially. Right? Yeah. So don't. He said that. He said the quiet part out loud. Yeah. But
no.
But like, don't pretend.
It's always the same shit. It always comes down to the bottom line. You can treat human beings like shit. You can treat them that they're not a human being. You can treat them as an other, just so you get some kind of financial gain out of it. It's like, it doesn't matter that people are being tortured. That's fine as long as I get mine, and it's disgusting and terrible. It's so bad.
Now, you'll know this word better than I do, but isn't there like a phrase or a term in Islam called a takra or I think it sounds something like that, where it's okay to lie if it's for the progress or benefit of Islam. Tequila.
No, tequila's a drink.
Now that's
Tequila is much better too. Does this one have a worm at the bottom of it?
No? I mean, okay, that is, most Muslims don't do that. You know, I mean, this is a very most Muslims are not even aware that that's a thing, right? And it's more of a thing in Shia Islam, but among very religious Shia Muslims that are, it's not as big of a thing as some of these. It's not as big as.
Is it fair to identify that with? Is it fair to identify that with apologetics or no?
No, I think like you might be suspicious, for example, that Khamenei, when he says that we don't want to build like nuclear weapons, you know, you could be considered that he might be doing taqiyya then and there, right? But if you're talking to an average Muslim, they're being concerned about taqiyya is not a big thing. It's not at all a big thing.
No, that's just a common stereotype that I hear. So I figured like get some clarification on it.
It's an unjustified stereotype on Muslims, I would say.
Sorry, don't mean to butt in, but Don's been trying to ask you a question for a while now.
Sorry,
Don.
Thanks,
Go
Troy.
ahead. It's your turn now.
So when you're talking about Islam, what are you thinking of the future for Islam? Is it going to grow or is it going to shrink?
Both.
Oh,
okay. So I think it will grow in numbers, but shrink in strength. Right.
Oh.
So we're gonna have nominal. We have different types of Muslims, right? We have reformist Muslims, we have moderate Muslims, we have conservative Muslims, and we have what I call nominal Muslims. Nominal Muslims are people who are Muslim only by name, but you can't really tell if you look at the way they live and what they do, you really can't tell the difference between them and an atheist. But if you ask them if they're Muslim, they will like, I'm a Muslim. Maybe they still drink, for example, but maybe they won't eat pork, right? Like, so pork is a no.
It's a pick and choose cafeteria style Muslim.
Yeah.
What if you offered him like bourbon, like bacon flavored bourbon? How would that conflict? I want to drink, but it's got pork in it or something.
Yeah. So I think given that Muslim countries are having higher birth rates, and also because of the Muslim culture, they have higher birth rates, you are going to see Islam is going to continue to grow, is going to surpass Christianity in total numbers. But I think you're going to see, not in the short term, like in the short term, you're going to see it's going to go up and down, like how seriously people take their religion. But I think if you look at the long-term horizon, you're going to see a secularization of Muslims in the same way that you see in Christians. Like how many people say they're Christian, but they're not living Christian lives. I think you're going to see that with Muslims where,
Well, they show up to church on Easter and Christmas time. You can't get any more Christian than that. So we always used to call them annual Christians, where you only show up to church twice a year. You probably got the same thing in Islam.
Annual Muslims would be very accurate, because a lot of Muslims remember that they're Muslim during Ramadan, and then they forget again until next year Ramadan. So that's annual Muslims would be.
It's like those annual plants you can buy at Canadian Tire. You can buy your annual Muslim there. So you're good for the year. Plant them, water them a bit. You're good for the year. Armin, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. We really appreciate that. If people want to find out more about your adventures and your and everything you're putting out, where can they find you?
Oh, you could check us out on YouTube, Atheist Republic YouTube channel. You could just search for Atheist Republic on YouTube. Me and Susanna do a stream once a week, and me and Secularity do a stream once a week. So with Susanna, we cover 10 news items about religion around the world, and this is an excuse to get atheists from around the world connected to each other, because we think the problem of dogma and religion and conservatism is a global threat, and it's not something that we should be fighting one country at a time. Because this is a global threat, we secular activists and atheist activists, we should connect with each other. This is a fight that should be done across borders, not one country at a time. So the reason why we did a news segment that we cover what's happening about religion across the world is so that we could connect atheists from across the world together as well in our audience, right? So that's what I do with Susanna once every week. And with Secular Rarity, one thing we have started recently is that we go over Muslim apologetics via YouTube channels, and we dissect some of their videos, and we have that's just a lot of fun. We do that as well.
That sounds fun.
We do that once. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can see Elliot doing that.
Come check it out.
Armin, thank you so much for being with us. Before I
plug your book, Armin. Before we go, plug your book.
Yeah. I've got like 2 copies of that one.
Oh yeah? Oh
yeah, I do actually.
Oh, there we go.
Oh God, it's a great little book. Excellent.
Yeah.
Find bookstores everywhere. Armin, before I let you go, I gotta have you say hi. This is Armin Navabi of the Atheist Republic, and I took a left at the valley.
Oh wait, okay, I have to practice that. Well, it took you a left at the valley.
We broke him. He came onto the show and we broke him.
Took a left at the valley? Is that it?
That's right.
I got it. Yeah. Okay. Hi, my name is Armin Navabi from Atheist Republic, and I took a left at the valley. Is that right? No, let me try again.
Okay, we're taking a second take. Okay. Second time.
A left. Can you say that again one more time? I didn't hear.
A left at the valley.
Okay. Hi, my name is Armin Navabi from Atheist Republic, and I took a left at the valley.
Proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it.
Well, what do you think? Thank you so much to our guests for being here on the show, and thank you to my co-hosts, Brent, Lee, Troy, Dawn, and Helen. And thank you for listening. You can follow us at leftatthevalley.ca. You can send us an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. You can find us pretty much anywhere. Just go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just look for Left at the Valley. Easy the YouTube channel. Give us a 5-star review wherever you find us. It helps us and helps others find the show. And just pass the show on to a friend. We're always looking for new listeners. And if you ever feel so benevolent, become a patron of the show. Go to patreon.com/LETV, where patrons get an unedited version of the show, video version of the show, and maybe even a t-shirt. So help us grow the show. Thank you so much, guys. Until next time.
It claims that's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.